Hey guys, your friendly neighborhood vampire witch magic here. I'm gonna try to, I'm outside today, I'm trying to do this. I'm not completely here, I'm running on 2 hours sleep, so hooray, let's get into this. We're on chapter 6, hooray. I don't even know how many chapters there are to this game. Alright, chapter 6. Alright, I think that's a wrap, says Darren once we finish our strategy meeting. We're currently all sitting in a circle in front of our cave's entrance. The sun is pretty high up in the sky, and there's not a cloud in sight. Luckily, Kate has graciously agreed to use her ice magic to cool the air around us a bit. This way we can enjoy the weather without feeling as if we're inside an oven. Noon is almost upon us, Darren continues. We should get going as soon as possible. We can't afford to keep traveling once the sun sets, and we have a long road ahead of us. Rose, did you get all the herbs you were looking for? Oh no, I just remembered. I dropped my bag of herbs when I was being chased by the goblins. Don't worry, I doubt anyone would have stolen it, so it must still be where you left it. I'll help you look for it. Come with me. I get up to follow them, but Kate grabs me by the sleeve. Wait, she says. There's something that's been bothering me since this morning. She looks really tense. It seems like she's struggling to get the words out of her mouth. She pauses, were you really smitten with me since you first saw me? Of all the things I would have expected her to say to me right now, this was the last of them. Thanks a lot, Darren. What am I supposed to tell her now? Maybe a little, I tell her. You were? I thought he was just joking. I'm sorry. I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but I'm not interested right now. I said only a little. What's gotten into you all of a sudden? This isn't like you. Kate looks away, takes a deep breath, and exhales before she continues. When those 3 mages attacked us earlier, it made me realize something. You and Rose are the only people I've ever met that did not treat me like some kind of monster. Even if people don't always say it openly like those 3 mages did, there's something in their eyes that gives them away. Something that makes it clear that they do not see me as a human. It's the same with Darren. Despite what you said, I don't think he truly believes I'm not a banshee. I think it's only a matter of time before I'll have to fight him, just like I've had to fight everyone else. I guess she's starting to see through my lie already. I was hoping I could convince her to not lose her trust in Darren, but it seems she never really had much trust in him to begin with. Kate shifts her gaze back to me. But you and Rose, you're different. When I talk to you, I see neither fear nor apprehension in your eyes. You speak to me as normally as you would speak with any other person. I do not know why that is. I do not know what's wrong with you, but thank you for making me feel part of a group for the first time in my life. Hey, there you are, Darren shouts from a distance, and he and Rose come back from the forest. We found Rose's bag not far from here. It's still got all her herbs inside. We should be good to go. When he gets closer, he looks at me and Kate says, I'm sorry, did we interrupt something? No, you're right. We should get going. Darren looks like he'd have a few more questions for us, but he decides to let it drop for now. We both head for the cave to make sure we're not forgetting anything. Before leaving, I make sure to take with me my spoils of war from this morning's skirmishes, a crossbow from one of the crossbowmen who ambushed us, a few daggers from Cutthroat Dave's mint, and the treasure I took from the Duke of Bagleberry. We join back with Rose and we set off on our long road ahead. Shortly after we begin our trip, Darren notices that I've strapped my crossbow to the back of my backpack. Barry, why aren't you just putting that crossbow inside the backpack, like you did with everything else? Well, because it's already full with my other stuff. Full? Wait a minute. Barry, you're telling me that the backpack you're carrying with you right now is actually a completely regular one? Well, yeah. Go away, bug. Enchanted backpacks are really hard to come by if you're not a mage. You realize you could have asked me to enchant it for you, right? It literally only takes a few minutes. Here, give me that. Darren grabs my backpack and enters an enchanting trance. His eyes become yellow and the backpack starts to glow. The fact that Darren specializes in item enhanced enchanting had completely slipped my mind. Enchanted backpacks are leagues better than normal ones. They have almost infinite space and people can't see what's inside them, so they can only steal your stuff if they know exactly what they're looking for. Taking an item out of an enchanted backpack is as simple as focusing on its image and reaching inside for it. Rose is looking very interested in the enchanting process. She is now studying Darren closely. "Hey, Barry," Darren says, "do you want to have your backpack extra secure or should I just leave it like this? If I secure it, then only you will be able to take items out of it. The only downside is that you can't really authorize other people to take items from your backpack once you secure it. Normally, security shouldn't be much of a problem with these backpacks because someone has to actually know what you have inside before taking an item, but it never hurts to be safe." I'd rather be safe than sorry, I guess. But, hold on, we're gonna, just in case something happens where, like, that's the wrong choice, because it seems to be my luck. "Secure it. Better to be safe than sorry. As you wish." Once he's done enchanting my backpack, he hands it back to me and then turns to Rose. "I can see you're very interested in my craft. Would you perhaps like to have your backpack enchanted as well?" Rose blushes, realizing she's been a bit too obvious in her curiosity. "I would be honored," she answers. Once he's done with her backpack too, we continue on our way. We spent the next few hours traveling south, taking the most direct route possible to Rose's town. Her usual route was designed to avoid most areas that are known to be frequented by monsters. But Darren insisted on delivering the cure to the sick as soon as possible and said that our group should be more than able to handle a few monster attacks. The scenery that we've seen during our travel has been rather underwhelming. Maybe my expectations were too high, but I always thought that the fabled continent of Varathia would be filled with all sorts of natural wonders and mythical creatures. All I've seen today were your everyday pine and oak forests, with a lake or river here or there to keep it from becoming completely monotonous. At least it's been a few hours since the last time we've been attacked, which is quite an achievement judging by how this tournament has been going so far. Kate has opened up a bit since her last discussion with me. When we first met yesterday, she looked very tense, and it seemed as though she was expecting us to try to kill her at the moment she turns her back on us. Now she seems calmer, and she allows herself to smile a little more often, even if only faintly, especially when she's talking with Rose. We've been keeping a steady pace so far, and there's been no breaks except for occasionally stopping to get some fruits from the trees or to fill our gourds with water from a river. During one of these small breaks, Rose approached me in private to ask me about the discussion I had with Kate this morning. "Barry, I've been meaning to ask, did we actually interrupt an important discussion between you and Kate this morning? Kate's been acting evasive every time I brought up the subject. I'd feel terrible if you two lost a chance to confess your feelings for each other because Darren and I couldn't read the mood." "Oh, don't worry. We got to say all we needed before you interrupted." "Oh?" Rose says, smiling. "I'm beginning to understand why Kate was avoiding the subject then. I'm glad that the two of you are being honest with each other. I won't ask any more questions if that's the case. However, I will tell you this. I've only known Kate a few hours, but I can tell that she's been through a lot. So please try not to hurt her. She has a good heart." "I'll keep that in mind." Rose smiles. "Now then, I think we should start helping the others with picking fruits. We'll need all the food we can get for the long journey ahead of us." Rose and I join the others, and once we're all done gathering provisions, we depart once more. As we travel, we start talking about various things. Darren's adventures, our lives before joining the tournament, the reason we all came here. During our conversations, Darren was of course the one that's been speaking the most, while Kate has been evasive as always about her past and her reasons for being here. Hearing our stories, Rose decides to join our discussion by telling us a bit about herself. "I've always liked plants," she tells us. "Plants and books, so it's no surprise I spent most of my youth with my nose buried in herbology manuals. As time passed, I started to learn more about herbal medicine, and I realized my talents could be used to help people in need. Most people I help don't really have much money to repay me, but the little they give me is enough for me to make a living, and their sincere feelings of gratitude are much more rewarding to me than the money I'd get by only working for rich folk. I've been living a modest life along with my brother and sister who are 9 and 8 years old respectively, and ever since my father died last year, I've been occasionally getting some financial support from my ex-husband." "You were married?" Darren asks. Yes, for a few years, but it didn't really work out in the end. We've both moved on with our lives since then, and we've had no children together, so there's no hard feelings. Ever since my father died, I've had to take care of my siblings all by myself, so my main focus for the past year has been my work and my family. But what about your mother? Says Kate. She died long ago when she gave birth to my little sister. Oh, I'm sorry. Rose smiles. There's no need. You couldn't have known. So how did all you handle the death of your grand priest? Darren asked, trying to change the subject. You said that he was the last person alive that could create food out of nothing in your city. So I imagine there must have been some backup plan in case of his inevitable death. Oh yes, many people have started to learn agriculture, but the problem is that most of the fertile terrain around our town is already owned by the nobles. By planting your seeds further away from the town, you run a great risk getting your crops raided by monsters. Are monster raids frequent in your area? Yes, monsters have been getting bolder in the past few decades. It's not just in our area. It happens throughout the entire continent. I'm not certain, but I think it all started when we lost contact with the animal kingdom. After the first animal hunts were started by the people of Omnar several decades ago, the animal leader, the spirit Golden Fox, has ordered her subjects to stop speaking in our language. The monsters must have found out about this, and they took advantage of the fact that the humans and the animals were no longer working together in order to wreak havoc. What about the gods? Darren asks. Are they not getting involved in any of this? The only gods that are currently getting involved are the god of fate and the god of death, but I very much doubt that any of them have our best interests at heart. It is said that the two of them started working together recently, and that might well be true, judging by the high levels of cooperation between their followers lately. Wait, isn't the god of fate just a fancy title for the god of illusions? Darren says. Yes, Rose answers. Most gods name themselves after the power their followers gain by worshipping them. Some of them, however, choose other names for themselves, which can be a bit confusing. It's the same for the god of death. Judging by his name, you would think that he reigns over the underworld, but in fact he's just a god of necromancy, bringing the dead back to life to serve his bidding. As Rose talks, I hear 3 loud beeps coming from my pocket. I pull out my stat device, and I'm surprised to see that the maximum numbers for my stats have now been increased to 4. What's that? Rose asks. It's a toy, Darren says before I get a chance to reply. You know, those magical devices that simulate a pet in order to teach little kids about responsibilities. Those beeps you heard were Barry's pet getting hungry. Oh, I love those toys. Ever since I got one for my little sister, I just couldn't keep her apart from it. Ignore Darren, Kate says. He was just being a smart ass. What Barry has there is a stat booster. He's using it to harness magical energy from the air, which he can then use to augment his physical abilities. Rose looks impressed. Wow, I didn't know such a thing was possible, so that device is basically turning you into a mage? I never thought about it this way. It's true that there are some mages that actually use their magic to augment their powers in a similar way that this device does. Does that make me one of them? I suppose, I answer her, but it's only temporary. The device will run out of energy once I'm no longer surrounded by all these powerful mages to extract it from. I take a look at my stat booster and start to think of what I should spend my newly acquired points on. Okay, so if I remember correctly, I do need more of this and that and that. Continue. As I finish using my device, Rose asks me another question. Wait, so if your stat booster extracts magical energy from the other mages, does that mean it's also eating away at Darren and Kate's powers? It's getting a bit of energy from every mage in a 30-mile radius, but the amount it takes from each of them is barely enough to mildly inconvenience them. Most of the energy it's getting is from the powerful spells that have been cast all around us since the beginning of this tournament. That energy would have just dissipated into thin air anyway, so you could say I'm recycling it rather than stealing it. I think that I get interrupted by a very loud roar that echoes all around us. What was that? Rose asks, visibly scared. A second louder roar now booms through the air. As I can feel my hair stand up on the back of my neck, I've never heard this sound before in my life. I have no idea what beast might be causing it. So then what is this feeling of dread I'm getting all of a sudden? Why do I find myself wanting to run as fast as I can in any direction, as long as it gets me as far away from this place as possible? Shortly after the second roar ended, a very powerful wind started to blow toward us. I can almost feel it trying to lift me into the air. The trees are barely holding up, and it looks as if they could get pulled out of the roots at any moment. We're lucky that this happened while we were in a clearing, because otherwise we would have had to protect ourselves from falling trees while we're trying to hold the ground against the relentless force of the wind. As some of the trees start to fall, a monstrous figure makes its appearance high above us. It's at least 50 foot tall, with very tough-looking red scales covering its entire bodies and wings the size of sails on a longship. Its claws look as sharp as blades, and its fangs are bared at us menacingly. But its overall appearance is not much different from that of an overgrown lizard. A dragon. They really existed. Is this all happening because of my disappointment for not encountering any mythical creatures so far? If that's the case, then I take it back. I take it all back. Just please let this all be a dream. Let this just be the end of a bad dream before I wake up back in our cave. Then we can start our journey anew. Get down! Darren shouts to us as the dragon gets closer, lands a few dozen feet in front of us, making the whole ground terrible violent under its weight. No, Rose says, unable to control her shivering and barely able to keep her balance anymore. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. The dragon looks all around us as if it were trying to find something, and then it shouts loudly in the common tongue, "Where is he?" Seeing that none of us are answering, the dragon asks us again, this time giving us a few more details. "The still water. Where is he? You reek of his stench. Where are you hiding him?" We're not working with him. We only just met him a few hours ago. Lies. What reason would he have had to leave you alive if he didn't have a use for you? Well, he did ask us to deliver a message for him. A message? The dragon laughs. I see he's reduced himself to using low-born mongrels to do his menial tasks nowadays. If you're just his lowly messengers, then you are useless to me. The dragon growls before it continues. I should have known that I'd be wasting my time by trying to communicate with the likes of you. If only that Stillwater would have minded his own business after he returned to the continent, instead of writing that accursed message in the sky. I'd have left him be, but he had the incredible nerve to involve the dragon hunters in all this. Wait, we're not dragon hunters. Please, if you could just let us explain. Silence, mongrel. I've watched our pathetic human race fumble their way through their life ever since they stopped walking on four legs. I could have killed or enslaved you all at any point in your miserable existence, if it weren't beneath me. But now your kind dares to rise against me. You charred remains will serve as my gift for Eden to welcome him back to my realm. The dragon soars to the sky as it shouts the final words to us. Pray to your gods, humans. They're the only ones that can save you from the onslaught that will follow. Quick, everyone get behind me, Darren shouts as he raises his shield, and a semi-transparent magical barrier starts to form around us. Kate doubles up our protection by also making a dome with thick ice to surround us. The dragon, who has now raised himself to a sufficiently high altitude, unleashes a downpour of flames upon us. As the flames collide with our protections, we start to feel the air heating up all around us. Kate's ice has already melted away, and all that's standing between us and the torrent of fire is Darren's magical barrier. Rose is now sitting on the ground with a terrified look in her eyes, hugging her legs and shaking violently. "Rose!" Kate yells at her. "Snap out of it! We'll need to be ready to get out of here as soon as Darren's barrier breaks. Do you hear me?" The dragon's flames have suddenly stopped. Looking up to see what happened, I'm terrified to learn that the monster is now quickly diving towards us. Kate tries to make another wall of ice between us and the dragon, but it breaks through it in a second, then clashes with Darren's magical barrier, shattering it in an instant. The dragon then grabs Darren in one of its claws and soars back up into the sky. We can hear Darren's screams as the giant lizard tries to crush him. Kate launches several hundred sharp ice blades toward the dragon, but they seem to simply bounce off its armored scales. "Kate!" Darren shouts from the distance. Can you make a slide for me?" "Yes," Kate shouts back as she quickly builds an ice slide that starts below him and ends on the ground next to us. Once he sees the slide is finished, Darren furiously thrusts his sword into the dragon's claw as it starts to scream in pain and drops him right from on the slide that's been custom made for him. Just as Darren finishes sliding down, the dragon uses his fire breath again, this time aiming directly for Kate. She makes a large, thick shield of ice float above her in order to provide her cover. As the flames in the ice clash, I can see that Kate is making a great effort to keep the fire back. Darren quickly rushes to her position and provides her with cover before her ice melts away. Unfortunately, the fight has weakened him as well, and he does not manage to hold the barrier for long. His barrier breaks, and the shield drops to the ground right when the dragon finishes his attack. The explosion of air generated by the destruction of Darren's barrier sent Rose flying, and she hit her head on the rock. She is now lying on the ground motionless. Think, Barry, think. What can you do to turn the tide? There has to be something. There has to be a way to use everything you know to your advantage. There has to be a way. Think. It's over, humans, the dragon shouts triumphantly from high above. Your era is at an end. I'm going to exterminate every single one of you until all that remains of your race is a forgotten memory, and I'm saving Eden for last. It's no use. My stat device is worthless here. Even if I had all my stats maxed out, I wouldn't stand a chance. This was all over before it began. As the dragon's flames poured down on us, I closed my eyes, awaiting for my impending doom. After a few seconds of keeping my eyes closed, I realized that I'm still alive. I open my eyes back up and find out, to my surprise, that the dragon's flames have stopped in midair a few inches before reaching us, as if they were frozen. But that is not all. Looking around me, I see that everything else is frozen too. Darren, Kate, and Rose are all standing completely still, and I can't even feel the wind anymore. I thought Rose was unconscious. Seriously, now, I hear a familiar voice behind me. How could I have let him win after saying a line like that? I quickly turn around to see Eden standing behind me with his eyes closed as usual and a smile on his face. I don't think I've ever read a children's book where the main villain gloats to such an extent. It's embarrassing, really. What did you do? I'd say this should all be self-explanatory. I froze in time. How is that even possible? There's no such thing as impossible, Barry. As long as you never stop believing in yourself, you can overcome any limits. Remember this advice. Is this all a joke to you? No, but your fight with the dragon was. I've been watching your battle since it began. I must say, I'm not very impressed. Are you kidding me? What do you expect me to do against a dragon? How about using that device you're holding in your hand? Yeah, and what would you have me do? Max my strength and punch him to death? Excuse me, sir? He and I both turn around at the same time and see that Rose is standing up, looking at Eden confused. Hi, my name is Rose. Are you a friend of Barry's? Eden furrows his brow and makes a hand gesture towards Rose. What are you doing? Rose asks him. Interesting, Eden says. Rose, I've cast a spell that is supposed to freeze time for everyone except for me and Barry. Have you by any chance studied time magic in your lifetime? No, I can't cast any magic at all. I'm not a mage. Eden's smile widens, and I offer you my sincerest congratulations. As of this moment, you are officially a time weaver. A what? Eden turns to me. Barry, I must admit, I don't think I've ever seen such diversity in a team before. A time weaver, a healer in armor, a survivor from the Beacon of Hope, and a stat device wielder. I think I'm starting to root for you. Good, then maybe you can finish off that dragon for us? No, Barry, you are going to finish off that dragon. Eden snaps his fingers and my stat device flies out of my hand and into his. The device then suddenly starts glowing and it looks like it's accumulating a massive amount of energy in a very short amount of time. Hey! I realize this must all be very confusing for you, Barry, so I'm going to provide you with a little bit of context. The beast that just attacked you is Tyrath, the self-proclaimed king of all dragons. The reason he's looking for me is because I wrote a message in the stars last night in ancient language used primarily by dragon hunters. The message's purpose was to let all dragon hunters who entered this contest know that a dragon exists on this island and to give them all a little extra incentive to hunt him down. I very much doubt that any of them will pose a realistic threat to him, but it will be fun to watch. He finishes charging up my stat device and hands it back to me. As I hold it in my hand, I can feel a powerful surge of magical energy run through me and flow through all my body. I believe your ultimate goal was to win this tournament and become a mage, was it not? Well, Barry, I'm now giving you a taste of that power. For about 5 minutes, you'll have magical powers comparable to mine. More than enough to drive off the dragon. I'd wager all the information you need in order to use your powers should have been transferred into your mind by the stat device. I'm looking forward to watching your battle. Eden then starts to fade into thin air. When only his outline is visible anymore, he says, "Oh, and I'd recommend starting with a magical berry. Your friends don't seem to be doing very well." As Eden vanishes completely, time is slowly starting to resume its course. I take the Stillwater's advice and quickly conjure a protective barrier around Kate and Darren. It's amazing how natural this is feeling. It's as if I've been casting spells my entire life. Is this really the true power of my stat device? Just as I finish casting my spell, time unfreezes itself and the dragon's fire hits my magical barrier head on. The flames then disperse into the air while Kate looks around her, shocked at the discovery of the newly formed barrier protecting her. "Darren, did you—" "No, it wasn't me. The barrier is leagues stronger than anything I could conjure. I don't know who did this." "You!" the dragon Tyra shouts from high above in the sky while pointing at me. "You did this. It does not matter. All you managed to achieve is to make yourself the next target. Prepare to die." I conjure another protective barrier around me and Rose just in time to defend us from the incoming flames. My barrier is holding up much better than Darren's. There's no sign of it breaking anytime soon, and I'm barely even feeling the heat outside of it. The question is, what am I going to do now? Looking at my device, I can see that my stats have remained exactly the same and I have no extra available points. So then what did Eden do to it? I'll need to figure this out later. At any rate, judging by the amount of extra energy I can sense in the stat device and the speed at which it's getting consumed, I'd say that the estimate Eden gave me is a spot on. I have less than 5 minutes to finish this fight, but even with all this magical power, the dragon may well pulverize me in a one-on-one fight if I don't do this right. Both Darren and Kate are too exhausted to assist me, so I'm on my own for the time being. Even as I'm standing here thinking, time is running out. But can I afford to just start fighting without any plan whatsoever? Having all these powers means nothing if I just sit here and let them go to waste. I'm going to have to improvise. First things first, I need to get out of this barrier without getting burnt to a crisp. I cast a spell to protect myself from fire, and then a spell that enables flight. I fly out of the barrier and right through the scorching flames. It feels as if I were in an oven, but at least I'm not getting any visible burns. The dragon sees me fly through his fire and lets out an intimidating roar. I position myself at the same level of height as him, a few dozen feet from where he's hovering, and I stop in midair. Let's try acid first. I make a ball of acid and send it flying towards the dragon. Tyrath claps his wings together, which generates a strong gust of wind that scatters the acids and sends me spinning backwards. That disorientated me a bit, so it took a few seconds to figure out where the dragon went. Once I locate him, I send a powerful jet of water in his direction. The dragon gets pushed back by the force of the impact, but aside from that, it does not look like he took any damage. I notice that there's something off about the way the sun is shining on the dragon's scales. It's as if the light is coming from the wrong direction. Could it be that the dragon I'm looking at is an illusion? If that's the case, then where's the real dragon? I cast a spell on myself that allows me to see through illusions. Sure enough, the dragon in front of me disappears as soon as I cast the spell, and I see the real Tyrath closing in on me from the right. I mimic his earlier move and clap my hands, which creates an incredibly strong blast of air in front of me, sending the dragon back about 50 feet. I don't know how you were able to see me through my illusion, human, but I'm not going to take it easy on you anymore. After finishing his phrase, the dragon immediately appears in front of me and swings one of his claws at my chest. It was all I could do to teleport out of harm's way in time with a short-range spell suited for combat. Me and the dragon spend the next few seconds teleporting one after the other and trying to take each other by surprise. This is getting me nowhere. I unleash a powerful explosion of fire all around me, which pushes the dragon back a few feet. But it doesn't harm him in the slightest. That's right, the legends always said that dragons are immune to flames, as well as mind-affecting spells and illusions. Damn it. There's so many big spells I could cast right now, but almost all of them would endanger Kate, Darren, Rose, and even myself. I'd have to get back to the others and cast some protection spells before I start shooting tornadoes out of my fingertips. If I do it now, I might still have time to finish the fight before my 5 minutes are up. I'm just wasting time like this. There's no point in having all this power if I don't use it to its full extent. I teleport next to Kate and Darren and conjure a strong barrier around them and Rose in order to stop the dragon from coming in. Barry, what happened? Darren asked me. This magic power radiating from you, it's insane. I'll explain later. I don't have much time, and I need to concentrate as much as possible on casting these protection spells. After I finish casting the spells on the three of us, I do the same for Rose, and then I fly out of the barrier to face the dragon again. Finally, I can go all out now. I raise my hands in the air and feel all of my magical power flow through me. This is what I've always wanted. This is what I've been looking for all my life. I'm not going to let one single dragon stand in my way. I start creating a tornado. The wind around me is now so strong that it's literally breaking chunks of rock from the ground and making them fly around me, clashing with the trees that are getting uprooted one by one. It's almost like a scenario from a horror book. The dragon is struggling to keep himself airborne, while my protections from wind are allowing me to fly through the currents with ease. Next, I use my earth magic to animate a giant made out of rock. The ground trembles violently as an enormous rock golem rises from it slowly, making it seem like it had simply been sleeping all this time. Once it gets up, I can see that the giant measures at an impressive 200 feet, and once it spots the dragon, it uses its huge hands to crush him between them. Tyreth lets out a deafening roar, a roar so powerful that it creates an explosion of air all around him, and it actually shatters the giant's hands, setting the dragon free. That was so loud I had to use a spell to avoid losing my consciousness. I can only hope that Darren and the others have access to sonic protection as well. Even though he managed to get out, it's clear that Tyreth has taken a lot of damage from my last attack. He's now breathing fire hotter than ever before, engulfing my rock giant in flames and turning him into molten lava. Try all you want, little dragon, but you won't escape my grasp. Nothing can stop me now. Dozens of volcanoes are starting to erupt from the earth below as I use even more magical power. This time to call upon a rain of acid. The dragon screams as the acid burns through its wings, and he starts to desperately shoot fire everywhere above him in order to burn all the acid before it reaches him. I teleport next to Tyreth and point my palms towards him, blowing him away with a powerful explosion of air that stuns him for a few seconds. Since I've interrupted him from burning the drops of acid, the rain is now once more pouring onto him, and the dragon starts to scream in pain again. It's over. He's no match for me. The time I have left will be more than enough to finish him off for good. Suddenly, the whole area gets covered in a blue light, and I'm starting to feel an immense magical power come from the air all around us. What's happening? Tyreth says, trying to hold back the pain. Has it been so long you've forgotten, old friend? I hear Eden's voice coming from the left. I turn around and see the still water floating in the air next to us with his usual smile on his face. Eden, the dragon says, just because these traps haven't been activated in more than a millennia does not mean they are out of function, Eden continues. The Lasathi of old were anything but shoddy craftsmen. This trap was just a bit out of tune, that's all. Luckily, your continuous use of flames and Barry's volcanoes were just enough to warm it up. As the two of them speak, the ground is shaking violently and the blue light is intensifying. You'll pay for this, both of you. I will not rest until I hunt you down. Nowhere on this continent will be safe for you ever again. Do you hear me? I'll hunt you down. Wipe that smile off your face, you low-born little... All of the magic in the air gets unleashed in a single moment, and the dragon gets teleported away. As the blue light disappears and the earthquake slowly stops, the energy from my device is gone. I could sense it disappear from the moment the dragon was teleported away. Eden turns back to me. Well done, Barry. You have far exceeded my expectations. What just happened? I'm sorry about your duel, Barry. I'm afraid you'll have to resume it some other time. Tyreth was caught in an old dragon trap that's been around for a few thousand years. The trap was supposed to get activated by the first sign of flames, but because it's been at least 1,000 years since it was last used, its mechanism was a little rusty. That's why it needed some warming up before it could get triggered. That discharge of energy from the trap must have surely fried your stat device. But don't worry, it'll recover in a few minutes with all your previous stats. What did the trap do to the dragon? It transported him to a dragon prison on this island. Since I doubt there's anyone actually guarding it at this point, I imagine that he won't have much trouble escaping. But even so, he'll still have to destroy the prison's automatic defenses, and he'll have to travel all the way back here, so it should be at least a few days before he comes back. Eden, shouts Darren as he comes closer to us. What are you doing here? Wait, I don't understand. Isn't he your friend? Geez, Rose asks us. That's what I thought, but it seems I was mistaken, Eden says, feigning sadness. He turns to leave. No, wait, don't go, Rose calls out to him. I'm sure Darren didn't mean what he said. I thank you for your kindness, Rose, but I can tell when I'm not wanted. I bid you farewell. He then starts fading away and teleports out of sight. Or did he? After seeing how well he could mask his presence before, I'm starting to wonder. It's a bit creepy knowing that he could just be standing there, invisible and untraceable, listening to everything we say. We really need to find some way to detect these kinds of things. Darren, how could you do this to your friend? That was horrible, Rose says. Calm down, Rose. It's not as simple as that. What's not that simple? Rose says. He saved all of our lives. I saw it happen before my eyes. We would have been dead if not for him. He's the one that gave you all those powers that allowed you to fight the dragon. Why are you acting like he's our enemy? It's because he is our enemy, Kate tells her bluntly. When we first met him this morning, he tried to kill Darren outright and ultimately decided against it on a whim. If what you're saying is true, and he really did save all of our lives, then I am inclined to believe that this was also a decision he made on a whim. What was the motivation he gave for saving the four of us? Kate's rebuttal made Rose lose a bit of steam. She pauses. He said that he couldn't let the dragon win after having gloated like a villain from a children's storybook. Well, there you have it. But never mind Eden's intentions. What I am most interested in is knowing how you both got to interact with him in the middle of our fight when neither me nor Darren saw him appear until the end of the battle. He froze time, I tell her. Froze time? Darren asks, perplexed. How is that even possible? Beats me. He just snapped his fingers and made time stop for everyone except me and him. Wait, what about Rose? He said that I was able to resist his spell because I'm a time weaver, Rose answers her. What the hell is a time weaver? Kate says. He didn't tell us, but judging by the name, I'd say it's a person that can use time-altering magic, I tell her. Rose, did you start to feeling any different after having withstood Eden's spell? Darren asks her. No, I feel exactly the same as before. I think he was mistaken. I can't have time powers. His spell must have just malfunctioned, that's all. Perhaps you're right, Darren says. At any rate, we should be thankful enough that we somehow managed to make it out of this alive. I've heard stories about how dangerous this place was, but I never imagined it to be as bad as this. We're all in terrible shape. Here, let me start casting some healing spells. Once Darren finishes healing us all, we waste no more time and resume our journey in order to avoid meeting any mages or creatures that may have been attracted to the loud noises of our previous battle. I still don't understand one thing, Barry, Kate tells me as we walk side by side. How did Eden manage to give you all those powers? As far as I know, transferring powers between mages is impossible without some kind of tool to assist them. Oh, he used my stat device. I'm not sure exactly what he did, but he made it start glowing, and then I suddenly got all those spells. I've tried playing around with the stat booster ever since in order to see if I could unlock some secret options or something, but I couldn't figure out how he did it. Wait, you're saying you got all those powers through your stat device? No, that's impossible. In order for that to work, you need to have even less magical power than a human. Otherwise, it wouldn't match at all with the magical frequency of the device. She pauses. Actually, come to think of it, your magical aura was always weaker than that of a normal human. Very weak, in fact, almost as if you were a... Kate suddenly stops in her tracks and looks straight at me. The look in her eyes slowly turns into one of both sheer terror and sudden understanding. Then her look becomes dark, darker than I've ever seen it before, as she continues to look at me straight in the eyes. Almost as if I were a what? Never mind, it wasn't important. Let's catch up to the others. We're lagging behind again. The tone in her voice was as cold as her freezing magic. She does not say another word to me and goes to catch up with Darren and Rose. Great, just what we needed. More underlying conflict in our group. I'm sure this can only end well for everyone. Ooh, I made it through another chapter. Barry didn't die. We're doing good. Oh, okay. Alright, so that'll be it for this one. I've got a cat trying to get my attention, so I will talk to you guys later.